My first case tonight is that of Karen Hales, whose father discovered her stabbed to death and set alight just feet away from her infant daughter in our own home here in Lavenham Road, Ipswich. In November 1993, Karen Hales was enjoying building a happy life for herself with her fiancé, Peter Ruffles, who she had been dating since school and who was the father of her then 18-month-old daughter, Emily. The three were living in their first home together, a house in Lavenham Road, Ipswich, and Karen had a part-time job in Boots. Karen had grown up in the nearby town of Barham with her parents Graham and Geraldine and her two sisters, Jackie and Angie. Karen was described as being very confident and full of life, often putting others before herself. She loved being a mother and was seemingly liked by all who knew her and never been in any trouble. On Saturday the 20th of November 1993, Peter had gone out with some workmates for the evening to the Swan pub. Karen was relaxing on the sofa reading when she heard the front door handle being turned multiple times as if someone were trying to get in. After a few attempts at the door, whoever it was stopped and disappeared into the night. Karen had stayed away from the door, too scared to call out and ask who was there. In the weeks prior to this incident, there had been a spat of burglaries in the area, so Karen and Peter were concerned that this may have been an attempt on their home. The next day, a snowy Sunday the 21st of November, Peter had gone to work at his job in the local bus garage at around 3:50 p.m, leaving Karen and their daughter Emily at home where Karen planned on doing some housework. At 4:15 p.m, Peter was visited at work by Karen's parents, who were having trouble with the starter in their car and hoped that Peter could take a look at it for them. They then proceeded to Karen's home to pay her and their granddaughter a visit. They arrived at the home in Lavenham Road at around 4:40 p.m. They knocked on the door but no one answered. They then discovered that the front door was unlocked, which they found unusual, and so entered the property to make sure Karen and Emily were okay. Graham was then confronted by smoke and flames. He rushed into the house to find his daughter alight on the floor and baby Emily just feet away, scared and crying in the corner. Graham rescued his granddaughter, but it was too late for Karen. The police and firefighters were called and quickly arrived to put out the flames. Karen had been repeatedly stabbed to death before being set on fire, possibly to try and conceal evidence. Unfortunately, this seemed to work as most physical evidence was destroyed during the fire and no foreign DNA was ever revealed to have been found on her body. There were no signs of forced entry, which indicates that Karen may have known her killer, and despite the heavy snow, no footprints were found leaving the rear of the property. 2 kitchen knives were missing and have never been recovered. They are believed to have been used in the murder. Karen's purse, which contained a small amount of money, was also missing and never found. This points to the killing not being planned, as the killer seemed to use weapons he found at the location rather than taking one with him had it been a premeditated murder. The missing person money may link the murder to the burglaries that had been happening in the area, or perhaps it was a red herring to make police think that this was a robbery gone wrong. Karen was very careful about allowing people into her home due to the spat of burglaries in the area at the time, so it would have been strange for her to have opened the door and let someone in. A man was seen by multiple people in an alleyway between Lavenham Road and London Road wearing a blue Parker coat with a grey fur-lined hood at around the time of the murder at 4:30 p.m. He was walking very fast, which drew attention to himself from 2 men who had wanted to ask him the time. A couple driving by then almost hit him as he darted across the road in an agitated manner. A woman walking her dog also witnessed this man in Chantry Park. He was hunched over running when he saw the dog walker, stopped, stared at her, and then turned away and ran into the darkness. Described aged 20 to 30, 5'10", slim, with short, brown, thin hair. Whoever this man was, he has never been identified, but an EFIT was released by the police. Psychologists suggest Karen knew her killer and invited them into the house. It may have been an acquaintance from work or her personal life, they said. Criminal profilers thought the scene was consistent with a sudden assault motivated by anger, due to the weapon being a knife from Karen's kitchen and the fire being started with materials in her home. Despite a manhunt in which detectives collected over 600 witness statements, national media attention and a £50,000 reward, Karen's killer has never been caught and no motive for the killing ever established. 2 people were arrested at the time but released without charge. Karen's daughter Emily is now a grown woman and has a child of her own. She's still hoping for answers and justice one day in her mother's murder.
If there's any mum out there that is hiding anything, they just want to imagine what it's like. Every morning Emily cries for mummy. During the day she's asking where mummy is. Peter and I do the best we can, and Graham, but we don't take the place of mummy.
It's sad that in over 25 years there's been very little movement on this case. Karen's daughter is now an adult and has a child of her own that's never going to get to know her grandmother. And 21 years old is really no age, especially when she had a new daughter, she was about to get married. It's such a sad case. I'm now in Portman Road, Ipswich, where 26-year-old mother of 2, Amanda Duncan, was last seen alive in July 1993.
Amanda Duncan was 26 and living in Balliol Close, Woodbridge, when she vanished from the Portman Road area of Ipswich on the night of Friday the 2nd of July 1993 whilst working as a prostitute. Amanda had been working as a prostitute to pay for her drug habit. Though friends and family say she never let her addiction get in the way of taking care of her 2 children, and they were well looked after. On the day she disappeared, Amanda had left her 3-year-old son Jamie in the care of her parents at about midday on Friday, July the 2nd, 1993, and her youngest son, 9-month-old Damien, with a babysitter at her home in Woodbridge, before travelling to work as a prostitute in the Portman Road area of Ipswich. On the night Amanda went missing, she visited an address in London Road, Ipswich, at around 11:10 p.m, intending to buy drugs. It is assumed she didn't have enough money at the time, so agreed to return to the house and finalise the purchase after finishing her work later that night. Amanda was then taken to Portman Road by car and dropped off at around 11:30 p.m. The last reported sightings of her were between 11:30 and midnight in the area of Portman Road. She was seen speaking to a white man aged 25 to 30, driving a red Ford Orion with a noisy exhaust at 11:50 p.m, and later the driver of a dark-coloured Ford Sierra, possibly green or blue, at about 12 midnight in Portman's Walk. These vehicles and the drivers have never been traced. After this, she was never seen again and never returned to the house for her drugs. Amanda was reported missing to police on Saturday, July the 3rd, 1993, after her sister visited her home in Balliol Close, Woodbridge, only to find Amanda's 9-month-old baby alone in the house, with Amanda nowhere to be seen. Some reports claim an anonymous death threat was discovered in her flat demanding she pay up. Was this in reference to a drug debt or a red herring left by the possible killer to throw off investigators? Though I've only seen mention of this death threat in one news article by The Independent, so there's little information available on this possible clue. When Amanda vanished, she was 5'7" tall, of medium build, with fair hair. She had a distinctive heart-shaped tattoo on her upper left arm. When last seen, she was wearing a black leather bomber jacket, punk, knee-length dress with no sleeves, and a gold cross and chain. Police have said they suspect she has been murdered, though have never been an actual suspect in the case. The police also believe there are people close to Amanda who have key information and are urging them to contact Suffolk police or Crime Stoppers. A former boyfriend of Amanda's has said that he believes there's a link between her disappearance and Steve Wright, the Suffolk strangler who murdered 5 prostitutes in Ipswich in 2006 and was known to frequent Ipswich as well as Norwich for prostitutes over that decade. The police have not been able to find any evidence to link Wright to Amanda. It's now been 26 years since Amanda vanished into the night, and police have made little to no progress in the decades since. Was she killed over a drug debt, or perhaps the victim of a serial killer that has since been imprisoned, or worse yet, is still out there?
I would like to have given both of these cases videos of their own, but there's such little information out there, it's very hard to do more than 5 or 10 minutes on either case, which is a shame because it ends up being a vicious cycle, because there aren't YouTube videos, there aren't documentaries being made about these cases because there's such little information to work with. That means the cases aren't then getting any media attention, which may bring forward new information. So I think it is important to cover these cases, even if it is only in 5 or 10 minute segments.
Amanda, if you are out there somewhere, come forward, please.